Flosstube University. This is episode 12. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Allison.
And we are the Flosstube channel Cross Stitch the Globe. These are short tutorials aimed at beginners. We're making them for the people who buy from our Etsy shop, but putting them on YouTube means everybody can enjoy them. It also means everybody can comment on them. So if you're an experienced stitcher and you have anything to add to the conversation, we love it when people leave additional tips or information. If you are new here, especially if you are new to the world of cross stitch on Flosstube, you may not know that it is truly insane and you should subscribe.
Do it.
To, on Mondays we come out with our Flosstube episodes every other Monday, which are like very long deep dives into our personal stitching that are part of a community of people that also all do this. And they're very fun. And then in between those episodes, we come out with longer deep dives on like advanced or more interesting topics than we have time to talk about in those, like how to make a needle minder or the most expensive thing in cross stitch, or you know, we're about to do a series on free cross stitch patterns. So definitely subscribe to check us out. All right, so now we're gonna dive into today's topic, which are types of cross stitch floss. So if you are new to cross stitch and you've only ever stitched with a kit that gave you the floss, or you've never stitched anything, and now you have to go get your own floss, you may be confused, especially if it doesn't say something that is very easy to buy or like find. So we're gonna go over the types of cross stitch floss that exist out in the world. There might be others. These are the most common ones, and even a couple not common ones. But what is the one that Allison stitched with for years before she like got sucked into this world?
Right. Cotton. I am a huge fan of cotton.
So cotton floss is the most common. It is the kind you see at the craft store. Most craft stores carry DMC, and
in some places Anchor.
Anchor. Oh, what other kind? You have another kind that you bought at the quilting store.
Cosmos.
And then there's also CXC. I forgot. I think of Cosmo and CXC as the same one. They're totally not. Cosmo's from Japan and CXC I think is from Europe. So cotton comes in some different like varieties. This is 6-stranded DMC cotton. If you ever see just the word DMC, what they mean is 6-stranded DMC. There's other kinds of cotton floss that are out there that are especially used in different counts of things. Like pearl cotton can be used to stitch some things, and you'll see that at the craft store. Or flower thread, which is like based on like Dutch. It's a Danish thing that like now they're doing more of, and Jenny Thompson flower thread is the brand that I think more people are trying now. But that's like a thicker cotton that you don't have to use 2 strands of on lower count fabrics.
Okay.
So this is your like most normal intro, and it comes in a skein. I've heard people pronounce it skein too. I pronounce skein.
I say skein.
No, there's no cross stitch police. I think you can say both. And it'll have like a number, and it'll just come in this, and it'll tell you how long it is. Different brands have different lengths, and also stranded cotton, stranded floss. Different brands have different amounts of strands in them. So most patterns, if it says DMC, want you to buy the like 6-stranded ones that look like this. All right, there are other types of cottons. I brought this one. It's so pretty.
Oh.
So there's other kinds of cotton floss. So this is what's considered an overdyed cotton. So there are lots of brands that do overdyed cottons. They might do something that is highly variegated. They might do something like this that has subtle tonal variation. It might even be hard to see. Oh, you can see it. I think you can see it pretty good right there. That's, ooh. Yeah, that's got different colors of yellow and brown in it. But so if you see, if it tells you that you're stitching it in a brand that isn't one you recognize, but it's still being stitched in cotton, it's probably just one of these like other brands. Like Gentle Arts is very common. Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers is a like a specialty small dyer brand that you don't usually see as the called for, but can be subbed out. This is the company that I like to sub in a lot, Moe's, which is a company that specializes in silk, but this is actually a cotton that I think is so pretty.
It is really pretty.
All right, so what are the benefits of kitting up with cotton?
Okay, so I like it because it's consistent.
Especially like the DMC.
The DMC is very consistent. I haven't had any issues with going back, having to get my second skein, and having it be a shade off. Hasn't happened. It's very affordable, and I like to keep my cross stitch budget as tight as I can.
I think the different brands can vary in which is the most affordable based on
Where
geography
you
and
live,
even store. But in our area, DMC is by far the cheapest.
Yeah.
How much was the Cosmo that you bought?
The Cosmo was more expensive by like twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you bought it for like a special thing?
Yeah. I had one project I wanted to work on.
But still a lot less expensive.
Yeah, less expensive than if especially since I could buy it I could walk into a store and buy it, and I didn't have to do shipping.
Yeah.
With most of your specialty floss, you have to.
So
or if you are lucky enough to have an LNS, you could just go shopping like a normal person.
So within the world of like cotton, it's like DMC is like the most ubiquitous. Where we live in the United States is the easiest to find and the cheapest for most people, but that is not true for everyone.
Right.
Then you also can find Cosmo in the like quilting shops where we are, and I think that is true in a lot of. I think that is.
I have heard other people say that too.
And then brands like CXC and Anchor. I think they sell Anchor and Michaels, or used to. I don't know. And I think DMC just bought them anyway.
Anchor, yeah.
So I have not used Anchor. I know Anchor Black is a popular substitute for cotton black because of the coverage. People say it covers slightly better because it's slightly fuzzier. Yeah. So, and then once you get into like overdyed cottons, then you're talking about more specialty, needing to order them or go shop for them in like specific cross stitch places. And we'll have a video in the future, just like we had a video about how to buy cross stitch fabric. We'll have a video on how to buy cross stitch floss, mostly for when you're going beyond like DMC. Yeah. All right. So the next one that is common is silk. Now silk is more expensive. And I happened to bring the project bag I had that had like my fanciest silk, not my like budget silks, because there are different levels of silk. Now, there are silks. Gloriana is a very popular brand of silks. MPI is another very popular silk brand. I also buy from Mosaic Silk, and I thought I had a skate of the Stitch Me silk in here, but I have silks from probably, and I also have flower silk from Stitchy Box. I probably have silks from like 5 or 6 different places. So you haven't stitched with silk yet. Okay, so the benefit that I like of stitching with silk is, one, I feel fancy, and like it's a hobby, and like it's a hobby about like how you feel like about things. And I can show you, I don't have like a ton of progress on this, but I don't know if I stitched this in DMC if it would look like how close it would look.
Oh, it looks great.
But I know that stitching it in silk, I feel like a fancy lady.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, kind of half the battle of cross stitch is like how it makes you feel.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
That's a 28 count. So if I show you the DMC on this other sampler, it's not really apples to apples, but because this is a 40 count, so this is much tinier stitches, but they both look beautiful. Like using silk and using cotton are both beautiful. Yeah. The reason that people like silk, the like better for cross stitch reason, is that it may be, I don't know how scientific this is, but they say it has better coverage in general, that the fibers are slightly thicker, and then also you're more in line with like what people historically stitched with, and especially if you're in the world of like reproduction samplers or something, doing things the way they were done is really important to people. Yeah. I just like it because I feel fancy, and I don't use it. This is a heirloom Christmas piece.
It's really pretty.
That I like am putting a lot of work into in December, so only maybe a little bit in July this year. But so like I wanted to go with the like silk that was called for. So I actually ordered the called for. Now, one of the problems with some of these silk companies is that, especially Gloriana, is that it can be hard to get them. And so I was on one of those took 7 months to come in.
Really?
And that's not like uncommon.
Wow.
So if you're kitting something up in anything that's not DMC, you want to go ahead and order it the day you know the project is a definite go, because some things take longer than others and some things just run out. And then there's companies like, there's a lot of different silks. I've never used Classic Colorworks' silk line. I've never used the Vicky Clayton silks. Like, there's so many silk companies out there that would be so fun to try. Like, but you can only do so many things.
There's only so much time.
I do love stitching a silk, but I also love going to a DMC and knowing I can frog it and not feel guilty. If I lose this skein, I can just get another skein. Like, there's definitely pluses and minuses to both, because there's no like silk equivalent of DMC that's just at the craft store.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not the choice between like cotton and fancy cotton, silk and fancy silk. It's regular cotton and everything else. And everything else is more difficult to get.
Yeah.
All right. So after silk and cotton are the ones you see called for the most, but there's this other category, metallics. And metallics, you'll often see Acrylic. This is a DMC Etoile that is actually called for in that pattern. I don't know if I'm gonna actually use it yet. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I care about it being sparkly enough, or if I want to just pick the like gray equivalent silver.
Which project?
In that sampler, this is the bells.
Oh, it's the bells?
Yeah.
I tried Acrylic for the first time and I liked it better than the DMC.
I just don't know if I want to risk like, because I'm going to put
Hating
the bells.
it?
Yeah, like maybe I should just get,
Maybe.
because it's so pretty without it.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean.
But, so
it's a
metallics
style
can come in a few different kinds. Do you have your Acrylic?
I do, I was going to get it.
So this is DMC Etoile. DMC also has Diamante, which I've used, which I didn't like. It might be Diamante. I go with the Bridget Jones Diamante, but it might be Diamante. So this is more like a cotton that has glitter in it. And then Acrylic is more like a fishing line or like a gift tag. And actually Acrylic, what we found out, Michelle, the Schnitt Crafter, found out, she's like, this Acrylic stuff looks a lot like my dad's fishing line. It's the same company.
Okay, that makes sense.
Makes like fishing lures and
that makes
metallic.
Total sense.
Right. So they have like one product and they figured out.
Totally looks like a fishing lure.
So maybe you can just go to Jared's tackle box next time you need to kit up with Mirabilia.
What are you doing in my tackle box?
So there's different kinds of metallics. People usually swear by one or the other. Some people hate all of them.
Like I said, I tried this and I tried the Diamante, and so far I like the Acrylic better. The Diamante really splinters. Like, it's obviously three strands that come apart very easily.
When I have stitched with it, I've stitched only one stranded in a 2-stranded project. Only one stranded of the Diamante, which is a tip I got from Michelle from Biddy Stitchy.
Okay.
But I don't think I like the look of metallics enough to care.
Yeah.
But you will see in projects that are, like, I have projects that have, so my Moon Glow by Nora Corbett has called for DMC colors, called for silk colors that are by the company Karen, and their silk line is called Water Lilies. So if you hear Karen Water Lilies, that is a type of silk. And they also have called for Acrylics and beads. So even though it's one chart, it's not like I could say like, I could convert everything to DMC. I could. But I have one chart.
There are charts out there that convert Acrylic to DMC.
And you can convert any silk color to a DMC pretty much. So depending on what chart you fall in love with, you may decide like, I'm only ever going to stitch in DMC, and then fall in love with a Mirabilia that now needs, or like a Cinderella that now needs other things. Yeah. So it's, even if you're like, well, I don't need to know that because that's not for me. Like, it may end up being for you. Like, who knew where we would end up?
Right. We'll see.
All right. So there are a couple other, there's 2 other types of floss I want to mention that we have not personally used, but that you'll hear about. One is wool. So DMC just came out with, like, I think it's called Eco Vitae. It's like a line of like eco-friendly dyed wools. Of course, if you're using a wool, it's still not like vegan or anything. So, and all, not to get crazy, but like all fibers, anything you're doing as a fiber is like not great for the environment. So I wouldn't like throw away your DMC stash to like go get a bunch of eco wool. But if you want to stitch with wool, I think that it's going to be called for in more things going forward, because I know designers are excited to try it. and it's different and they're very beautiful. So it will be fun to try those. I'm excited at some point to have a project with them.
Yeah.
And then another one I've heard is acrylic. So acrylic, I've heard the Realist kits have a mix of acrylic and wool. But honestly, I was watching Red Stitchery. She's new. Have you seen her? She's like very new. She was showing like her Realist wool, and I was like, well, that looks terrible. She was saying that it was terrible. I was like, well, that looks terrible. But I know a lot of people who like Realist kits, so it can't be like that they're like, but it just,
bad.
As somebody who bites my nails, it felt like that wouldn't feel good on my hands. But I've never tried it. So if you really like the wool acrylic or acrylic by itself, like definitely mention it in the comments. And then, yeah, so you'll also hear people using other things, but those are the only ones I've ever heard of, like as like it'd be common for you to run into that, and it wasn't like a specialty project. Anything beyond that is like, oh, you want to cross stitch on a burlap sack and you're getting twine or something, like go for it. But that's probably not a called for.
Yeah, right.
Or, but you just, like, you'll also see like, people taking like their DMC and stuff and like making cording and all these other things out of it, which is so cool and fun.
Yeah.
And so if you think you are doing a project where you might want to do that and incorporate that in your finish, then consider that as like, oh, do I really want to do that with like this very fancy, expensive floss?
Yeah. I've got to say, I was so intimidated like to use any other kind of thing that I didn't consider metallics. So I always converted to DMC, but like
in the past.
But it's just getting just try something different. I was surprised that it wasn't terrible and that you can get used to Acrylic. So
well, Acrylic is affectionately known in some circles as the devil floss.
I've heard worse, but yes.
Also there's different kinds of Acrylics. There's Acrylics that you just stitch with. There's Acrylic 4, there's Acrylic 8. Some people like to pick different sizes than the patterns called for. And then there's also Acrylic blending filament where you use it with a DMC, and like there's tricks to doing that too. So there's all kinds of different things out there. But yeah, like if you fall in love with a pattern that has a floss list you're not used to, go get them if you can afford them within reason.
Yeah.
Go get them and try them out and see what you like. If you're like, this list makes this pattern $100 and I don't want to do that, or like I'm doing some hot garden hollows. If I were to kit those up in floss, it's like in silk, it's like $300. So even though my heart's like would love them, I'm like
not crazy. Yeah.
So those are being done in DMC, and the DMCs are beautiful. I like going back and forth. Is what I like. Is I like using different materials, Well,
now that I'm not afraid of metallics, I'm not afraid of silks anymore. My apprehension with silks are frogging silk. Like, first of all, that sounds harder because it sounds more delicate.
Over 2, I don't think it's harder. Okay. I haven't had to frog anything over 1 yet.
Okay, but then
on like higher counts of fabric,
you're ruining all that very expensive silk, and I frog a lot. Unfortunately.
So the thing about silk prices is that there are definitely dyers out there who are like very good price on silk, but you can't just like go in and order the exact colors you want because there's a lot of one-offs and things. So I have amassed a collection of silks that I can plug into projects, but they're not the called for in anything, right? So like, and that's fun, but they're not the called for. If I were to see a floss list of like 12 silks and they're Glorianas are like $8 each. So like I did it for this one that needed 5 colors and it's like a Christmas heirloom piece. But if it was 20 colors, I probably would go for the DMC conversion.
Right.
Especially when like at the end of the day, does anyone know but you?
No, but you like to feel fancy, and that's great.
I think even when we submitted to the state fair, I don't think I listed the materials. I think you just list like the pattern in the description. Maybe next time I should look up like what other people list in their description and maybe be like, this is done on 36 count doubloon by a picture, like get fancier about it. It was like our first rodeo.
We're like, we did it.
Yeah. So maybe this year I'll look in and see like, should I get more? What goes in that box? Should I be telling them like, well, this was stitched in silk?
Yeah.
But I just like silk because it makes me feel fancy. And
that's fine.
And that's why I like vintage hoops, and that's why I like stitching in general. Is it's a fun, pretty, fancy hobby. Some people like it for totally different reasons, and that's cool too. Like, we all do different things. But don't be afraid of any floss.
Nope.
The kind of floss you use doesn't define you.
Nope.
You can try anything. You don't have to try anything.
Nope.
All right. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. We would love to have you on our Monday.
Come see what we're
full
stitching.
throttle cross stitch YouTube world.
Other people are stitching. We recommend a lot of the best channels that we can find. We'll tell you about.
Because we've had some comments lately of people being like, "We're the first floss that they found."
Yeah.
So it's like if
watch those floss.
So come and watch us, and then come and watch the people we suggest, and then just get sucked in like we are, and just never want to turn you.
It's just so great. It's so great. I'm so behind on my floss tubes.
I'm behind you.
And I'm excited to
get to
it.
So, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.